I'm going to review Tiger 1 mid-production with Zimmerit 6700 from Dragon. I was going to do this a long time ago, but I've been in the process of building it and just hadn't quite come to the finish on it yet. And I wanted to have it done when I recorded this so I could do the two parts together, the inbox and the build review. But I've had a lot of guys ask me, like, hey, do you know anything about this kit? And I do, so now I'm going to do it because I'm basically done with the kit. So when did this come out? 2014, right after 6600, which was a rebox of 6252. And it was basically the first major release that had had new sprues kind of since the initial toolings. So there was a white box Vitamin at Kursk one that had been the source of some early sprues, but apart from that, the initial two toolings had been the source of the majority of what we'd seen. This guy had some new stuff in it, so... and it's actually the first Tiger that came out while I was already in the hobby, which might not seem relevant, but it kind of, to me, is weird, because things have a different connotation in your mind if you remember them coming out. So, let's check out some stuff. Lots of markings. The majority of them are going to be, I think this guy's 502 in like the Narva sector, which is where Auto Carries was. Then most of these are the mids that were controlled by 101st SS in Normandy. And there's a few other things, I'm not sure where they're from, but that's the majority of markings that I've seen. Alright, so just on the box, I'll go real briefly over anything that they're claiming is new. That's all the same. A lot of this was the same as it ever was. This is obviously new because only mids had this, and it's sort of rare to see that. This is the barrel travel lock, which goes here. It's a very strange place to put it, but it's interesting. So, molded on tool clamps, I think, is the only option. I don't remember seeing any PE when I was building it. It does have DS. That's unfortunate. That's really all that looks any kind of severely different to me. We'll get into what is different to that, like this versus 6383. Sorry, the late was them in the Zimmerit parts when we see them. So our instructions have, I don't know, let's say a normal amount of blue for Dragon. Nothing looks terribly unused. Maybe that. But this is par for the course for Tigers. Alright. So the sprockets and vinyl drives will be the same. The wheels are two-piece, at least this part. Idler's two-piece. Torsion bar and swing arm assembly is the same as it is on 6383. Or any of the main Tiger ones. I think some of the earlier ones had a different thing where the bars went in separately from the swing arms. But these are all the one-piece ones. Yeah, all this is very, very similar. If you built any Dragon Tigers, this is all exactly the same. Here they're calling out you can leave off a front wheel. I think there's a bunch of these pieces where you could leave off any. Oh yeah, that's what they're showing you. So outer wheels, no outer wheels. I like this, but for what I want to do, I want to do one with all of the transport stuff for early style wheels in, you know, the way it would be, and I believe they also removed this outer of the two, I think. So, and then here, so you have, this is very, very cool, and I've done this since on early wheels. So here's this connector flange thing, I don't know what it's called, that goes between like these two wheels, and then there's that, and there's an extension, and then that wheel. So you can see it here. That, a lot of companies don't do that. So you've got that for all of them no matter what, but if you leave these wheels off, then you have a different piece and a PE piece for the wheels not on type thing. Rear plate, very much the same as it always is. Unfortunately, they did the multi-piece thing for this. Jack is the same as it usually is. Convoy light. Yeah, all this is pretty much not very interesting, and they're having you cut off one little piece here. The bow plate, again, looks really, really similar. Here's a 502 horseshoe. It's interesting. Bow machine gun and the engine sort of deck cover thing, pretty much the same as it always is. These are slightly different. They're like the rounder, earlier style. A lot of Dragon tail cables have that really janky look to them. They're really sharp angles, so this is sort of a rounder one. They've been using those now. All this assembly looks good to me with plastic. I know some people don't like that. I'm fine with it. You do have to open up the holes on the upper hull for all these little guys to go in. The headlight assembly, my only complaint about would be that the conduit is actually quite hard to get to sit right, but you do have the option of having the light on or off. Gun assembly is your standard Tiger gun assembly. And again, here they're finishing it, but it's the same thing we've always seen. There's the inside of the intakes. I'm slowly putting less and less of this stuff in because you just can't see it. Tools going on. I think the tools looking fine in this kit. The hatches look very, very similar to every other Tiger kit. You have the option to have either remove the clamp holders for the shovel or have a shovel. Mids could have a shovel. The only real rule is that DAX shouldn't have that shovel. Actually, the Lates didn't really have it either, but earlies tended to. I think Mids could. This is annoying because you have to put on the separate guide horns for these, and this is optional for different marking options to have these spare tracks here or not. These are still one piece, as they always are. The side fenders. There's a slightly upgraded turret interior in here from previous kits before it. This little piece right here, V16. I think there were some upgraded seat parts in general, so that's a little bit better. The cupola. Let me just give a little advice on this piece real quick. Try not to sand this stuff off because you think it's flash, because I swear I've done that 2 or 3 times. But the inside of the periscope assembly is all pretty easy. It's a lot of little parts, but it fits in okay. There's some options for different, like there's the armored cover for the ventilator. I never see that on later tanks because that was I think that was a deep weighting thing, but it could have just been an armored thing. But you normally only ever see this on mids. Let's see. All the interior stuff is all the same. So you have the loader's hatch bracket. There's an option to put a fire extinguisher on the turret basket for a couple of the marking options. I noticed this since I've just built this thing. This is one thing that I find strange, is that they call out this part V13 here, which is what the tracks would sit on, but that one has a pin sticking up. But you need to drill out the tracks to fit them in there, otherwise the old R-sprue from the older kits has the one where that detail isn't there and you just glue it on. If that doesn't make sense in the build review, I'll explain that. So the loaders, or the escape hatch thing, it's pretty much the same that I'm used to seeing, but it's pretty good. So this is a major difference from any other Tiger kit I've done. There's a lot of parts. I pulled it off, but that was fiddly. Wow. And I chose to have it like this. Then you have the option to put a couple of spare track things here. I've seen this a lot on pictures of DAX, just to increase the armor thickness in the bow plate. Then your DS tracks. So, the marking options, we've got a bunch. Western Ukraine, this is the yellow and brown. It's actually a sort of an interesting look because the 506 has that interesting unit insignia on the turret bin. Then you've got some Cherkasy Pocket 44. Quite a few options for that one. There's the 502 Narva, like Carius is. That's 211. He was 217. Then a couple, okay, so these are from Poland, these guys with the extra track links. So here and here. Then an Italian one, and then a bunch of 101st SS right there, which I'll probably end up doing one of these. Not sure which, but I haven't decided actually. The thing's built, it's just not painted. So the first thing we'll look at is tracks. I was a little surprised when I opened this thing up because I hadn't ever closely examined the tracks. So they are late, so there's ice cleats, but it's the older DS recipe, so they sit straight, and there is no crushed guide horns that I can see. So they actually look pretty good, and they actually fit very correctly together. Like, that looks pretty seamless. That looks like it would work okay. I had a very, very bad experience with newer DS tracks, so these are probably as good as DS will get. A little bit of flash, but that wouldn't really be an issue. So these aren't bad, and they came, you know, in this sort of packaging, so I was pretty surprised they were straight. Everything else, since this is 2014, came in just, you know, bag, which is a little disappointing, but no dragon card. But so let's look at decals. They look okay. I mean, I've never had a problem with Dragon's decals, or cartographs rather. They give you the option for all of these things in blue or white because no one knows what color they actually were. So that's a lot of options for one kit. So that is pretty impressive. The PE sheets, this guy here, these boxes for the inside of the fan assemblies, and then these little bits are for the outer wheels if you leave them off. There's not much else though. Then you've got your little bit of conduit, and then your 4 grills, 2 of this guy, but you can see that that guy's a little bit bent. Like, I know they might be saving money, not doing the little vacuum form box, but that one's bent. And then the other 2 are together in here, excuse me, in here, not bent, interesting. And then this guy is here and looks okay. So it's a little strange that 2 of them are separate and then the other 2 are together. I think I've seen that before, though. So, let's look at some plastic. This guy, we've seen quite a few times, but it's bent again. Every time I've gotten this sprue, this piece here is bent. This is the piece that attaches to the loader's hatch bracket thing right there. And it's like always bent. And then these are the things that cover the fuel tanks. Sprue looks nice. I mean, the quality. I just don't like that it's bent. And that happens seriously every time. That's the Tiger 1 gun sprue that's in every Tiger kit ever made. Still looks good, though. Yep, I mean, I can't see any flash or signs of age. I know that sometimes you do. Sometimes you'll see a sprue that's just a little too long in the tooth. And I did find some flash on parts in this kit when I was building it. So I'll try to keep an eye out for that. Then we have the E-sprue, which is 2 different roofs. The essential difference being the separate pieces for the roof. There's another loader's bracket. So, by the way, I do a lot of this, so people, if they pay attention, if you have one Dragon Tiger, that's the little thing for this hatch here, and it's also on this sprue, so then I'll use this one for something like a Tamiya to upgrade that. So that's why Dragon spares are awesome. Here is a King Tiger muzzle brake, because this sprue dates from 6253, where you could have the option for that. So that's another thing. If you get like a Tamiya kit with a 2-half barrel, you can use that. So I do like Dragon spares. This guy looks like he's had some pieces removed, or just a crossbar piece, so that there's other pieces here. But everything that's still on here looks pretty cool. This sprue, which is clearly cut off of some other sprue, and also, by the way, has no identification on it, is tools with clasps. They look decent. Then this piece is also where the torsion bar locks in the front. You need a special one for that. But I believe there was quite a few of these tools left over from this one, which again, love it. But this all looks pretty good, so. Then we have this little dude, which is just the sort of louver intakes, or actually the exhaust for those fans. Or the intake fans. I don't know what those fans do. The fan drives. This covers them. But there's the two-piece thing. It does look better than anybody, even the new kits that are coming out. These are still my favorite version of those grills. And they don't look flashy, which is good. Then you have, for these, you'll find these in 6253 and 6383, 6406. Any late Tiger, you'll find that this is the torsion bar track assembly. So you've got swing arm torsion bars, 4 per sprue. I just showed you one of these that had just a flattened piece. That's for one specific spot. And then all these tracks. Now these are for the spares, right? For the turret and for the front. You have to put on separate guide horns. I have so many, I have this theory that at some point I want to use 96 of these per side and just put them on a model. I think it'd be insane and stupid. But I might. The tracks do look pretty good. Annoyingly though, even though there are no ejector pin marks, there is just that one spot right there where that knockout pin is, where that's really tough to sand round. But in general, when you glue it, you can't really tell, so it's fine. And we've got a couple oldies but goodies. This is J-sprue. J-sprue is the source of a lot of good pieces. The fans, the radiators, the fuel tanks, the bow MG, these little guys here. You got headlights, some periscope things for the hatches themselves. It's old, but it doesn't look too flashy. And by not too flashy, I mean I don't see any. Still looks good. And then also very old is this guy here. That's B-sprue. Armored covers for the exhaust, the idler, of the larger type. Sprockets, final drives. Exhausts and stuff. Everything looks okay. It feels a little bit less refined than some of the newer stuff. You can tell this guy's old. There's a little flash. Right there. I don't tend to use this one though, I tend to use the one where you build it, but that looks flashy a little bit too. Yeah. So this sprue is getting a little old. Just little bits of flash, not everywhere. And then when I was doing it, I found some flash in between these parts on the idler, so be mindful of that if you're building it. This sprue here, just keep an eye on it. So this, I'm guessing, is the turret roof that you'll use, because it looks suspiciously not like anything I'm familiar with. You have the connectors for the spare track link holders, then another piece goes on top of there. You've got a ventilator in the middle, but no close support weapon, so that's what sort of makes it a mid-roof, at least in my mind. You've got loader's periscope, ventilator, but no like little launcher piece. And then 2 loader's hatch options. This looks really nice. The welds look good. I know you probably can't see them, but they do look pretty solid. Then this will probably also be the rear panel we'll use, and yeah, it is. Because there's the travel lock pieces. I believe there was 14 pieces to this thing. because you'd only use one of these chains, but it could have been less than that. It's a number of pieces, about that many. Fiddly, yes. Did I pull it off? Yes. But not my best day. Rear plate looks pretty good. Not much to write home about. And then this is for holding on to the towing clevis that goes like right there. Then we've got our wheel screws. We got 2 of them. The quality of the wheels is fine. On the inside you're going to have ejector pin marks, but you'll never see those. These look really good. And then they also have here. So these are what you glue on if you're gonna have all the wheels on, and then here's what you glue on if you have the outer ones off. I don't think any early tire kits should not have these. It's an important thing, because a lot of times they took wheels off. So, and you also have the option for one outer wheel with damaged or removed rubber. I kind of wish they were all like this so I could paint the rubber separately, but that's because painting is hard. But the wheels look good. Including like that back detail. I mean, I've compared them many times, other companies. I mean, right here we've got, make sure they're the right one. So there's a cleaned up outer wheel from this kit, which looks good. But if you compare them to their equivalent Tamiya, they look even better. So, yeah. But I like these wheel sprues. These are cool. I dig all of this optional stuff. This little sprue is just fuel filler cap stuff, or there's I think 2 of them are for fuel and the other 2 are for like checking coolant or something. The adapter plate for the inertial starter. Some of the tiniest parts I've ever frickin' seen. Oh, I know what these are. You have to glue them like into this guy, and it's actually quite difficult. And then these are, I believe, for holding tow cables. The little guys are, anyway. This was new in this one, and yeah, everything was great on it. Here you've got a large collection of shovels. Oh, fascinating. So it's been that long since I built the thing, I've forgotten, but, so here's the shovel, and then the clasps, clasps are separate. And then you glue them on to the deck plate. So it's kind of awesome. Very cool. Yeah, so you have a bunch of extra shovels. I've only ever seen like these pointy ones on like a Martyr 2 or something. I'm sure they were other places, but here are some more tools with clasps molded on, and some barrel cleaning rods. And a jack block. Not sure if you use that one or not, though. That's good. And then I dig this too. So that's, jeez, I can hold things. There's your tow cables. The other option being, and I'll show them in a second, the pointier sort of ones, which I think that was more common on Lates, that configuration, or it could have just been one image that Dragon used. But this is the more common shape of tow cables on a Tiger. They look fine. The attachment points are where there's braided detail. It's probably hard to pick up on here. So these will be easy to clean up. These not as much, but I don't notice that big of a difference or a problem with mine after they're built. So another really old sprue, which is C. Parts for the exhausts, all of that up top stuff is. Little bits for the engine deck, the exhaust shrouds, the side fenders, which you will need to saw into bits. And then our drive sprockets, which these are late. And I think this is the Yeah, this is what this holds the spare track on the front. These are also the type to hold the tow cables on, I think. There's lots of these little guys, so I'm not sure what's what. And that used to be bolt cutters. A little broken part there. Not a big deal. I have lots of them. If you don't have lots of Tiger kits, that might be a problem for you. And then here is our Tiger One Late. There's the old jig for the magic tracks. You've got... These are no longer used, I don't think, but these were for holding the spare tracks in the turret. There's some mantlet pieces, an armored one. Some interior seat stuff. The armored cover for the ventilator itself. That's for holding the MG on. All this stuff looks pretty good. I don't see any flash on it. Yeah, this still looks good. And then this guy, this is R-sprue. R-sprue's in like every Tiger kit ever. So, as I was talking about in the instructions, this would be the piece that held the bottom of the track on the turret. And if you notice, it doesn't have a post coming out of it. Right before the knockout pin, there should be a little stick sticking up. Or not should, but there will be on the ones I show you later. So, the bin itself is okay. It looks pretty good. It could be a little bit better though. But that's not any problem with this particular example. The molding is still really crisp. It just, the padlock detail's a little bit, after seeing what Ryfield's version of this looks like, it could be a little bit better. So, the upper plates, or sort of upper hull, seems a little warped, but it'll snap into place when you put it on. The detail's very, very nice. It's got that really kind of tough, for Dragon stuff, it's pretty thick. The surface is nice. Now, there's an issue where they tell you, well, I don't know if they tell you that, I didn't look, but some people definitely have had to sand this off because the turret won't sit correctly on it. So I'll show you that in the other video. But this looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. All of their upper hulls are good. So then we have this piece. This, I think, was specific to this kit. Could be wrong. Because this goes in the bottom of the turret, which I was not familiar with. But I'm not sure where this one came from, actually. There's the front plate where the shovel goes. These are the new pieces for holding the turret spare armor, or track armor. Spare tracks, whatever, on the side of the turret. Interior pieces, and then this is the piece I was talking about. So this is that same piece that's on R-sprue, but it's got a post sticking up right there. It's causing me grief right now, that's why I'm complaining about it. Everything on here looks really modern and good, though. Yep. So we're getting the little stuff that would have been on the Dragon card. We only got a few left. So we've got this little guy. And when I say would have, meaning there was no Dragon card. So it was just in a little bag. That's our cupola. Of the late types, I think this would be the earlier without the rain slits, because that didn't come until the late. It looks good. A little sloppy on the cleanup there, Dragon, but easy to fix. This is periscopes. I think this is for the earlier turret or cupola, so I think we need like this piece, which by the way I don't use this piece ever. I just leave it out, you can't really see it. That's my preference anyway. And then those are the periscopes for the cupola, and the convoy light right there is what that little cylinder is. They look like Dragon clear parts always do. Not quite crystal clear, but good enough, but not, they're a little brittle. That's my only complaint. A couple more tools, parts for the jack, and for the towing bits. This all looks really good. Can't complain about it. Any of these like TBs, these are newer. And then I think this dates back from 6253 maybe? Because it's all of the tools without clasps, and I think this kit does not come with that option. So what you can use though is this fire extinguisher, which I always thought seemed out of place because it has all of its all the bits that connect it to the tank itself molded on, and nothing else on the sprue does, which is kind of strange. But they're nice parts, and if you have, if you want to get a photo etch upgrade, there you go. So the last two bits, we've got the turret. Oh, it's not the last two bits, I forgot some. So first we'll look at the turret. We'll look at all the Zimmerit parts. In this light, it actually picks up pretty well, and in this kit, the turret has like a more noticeable Zimmerit than the hull pieces do. This looks okay to me. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it. Yep, I mean everything else about it is very much the same as all of the Dragon turret shells, which I do prefer the shell. But I'm looking mostly at the Zim. Obviously it's pretty good. Sometimes you'll notice on photos though that vision slit's a little more dirty. Like, when I say dirty, I mean like there'll be some nasty Zimmerit around there where they had to kind of blend it in. That looks a little clean. That's like maybe my only critique, but it looks okay. So the ones I forgot. I did forget this sprue. This is the Tiger 1 Late, also known as the P sprue. There's the later type of tow cable with the kind of jankier, like that. More exhaust, engine deck, the front plate, the non-Zimmerit side plates we won't use, more barrel cleaning rods. This has been around since 05 and 6253. But everything on it does look good. I don't see flash on this. You'll probably use these. That's a command antenna thing, Sterna antenna, so you don't need that. I think you also use that tow cable. So I think you actually use a lot. Use this. No, because you use Zimmerit for that. So you use this guy, these guys. Frankly, that could be it. Probably the jack brackets, which are right there. But I don't see any flash on this guy, despite his age, which is good. The other Zimmerit parts are these guys. Now, this kind of annoys me because up here I know that in the white box auto carriers, this is where the Zimmerited Tiger P mantlet goes. So I think when Dragon manufactured this kit, they made that one at the same time. The Zimmerit sprue had both mantlets on it. They just cut it off for this one. I don't know. I mean, I understand business, but like, dang it, because I want to do this kit, when I build it, will be Carius's 217, which means I have to manufacture a Zimmerited Tiger P mantlet, which is annoying. So the depth of the Zimmerit on this kit has caused a lot of discussion. It is pretty shallow here. Let's compare. You know, even compared to its turret, it's pretty soft. It could be scale correct, but it's just a little hard to read. And if it doesn't read, well then maybe it's not doing its job. On the mantlet as well, here's your side pieces. It's very soft on there. And then your rear plate, the glacis and the bow. It barely picks up light. It's just very soft. They do have the spots without Zim for the shrouds and the exhaust, which is correct. And that I like the unevenness of it right there for that right exhaust. But it's just very soft. But all the parts look good. I mean, the Zimmerit, there we go, for the turret looks thicker. But I mean, there were different types of Zimmerit used on turrets and hulls, so who's to say who's right? The last piece is the lower hull. It is indistinguishable from any other Tiger lower hull from Dragon, to my eyes. The scalloping looks good, the plate separation looks good, everything is super crisp. The bump stops look very, very good. There's where your torsion bars go. Yep. It looks as good as it ever does. So, here it is built. Now there's a few pieces not on there, you'll see I have a cup of wheels and sprockets and idlers. In here, I have my exhaust shrouds, a couple of spare track links for the turret that I'm hesitant to put on because, man, they're a huge pain to paint when they're already on. So that's why those are not on. And then so therefore this piece also isn't on. So that I'll probably put on before I do the painting, but so that's what's missing from here. And I will drop the pretense of these wheels staying on because I have it sort of dressed, but these are just kind of floppy, fall off. Because I paint all wheels separately. And since I'm not using the DS, I will be using AFB Club workable tracks. So, but what is here? I had a little issues, few issues, pardon me. So let me go through stuff real quickly. I'll take off turret. So suspension, there were no real issues with. This one again is set where it's workable. If you can see here, it kind of sits like I gotta kind of like nudge it, and then some of the wheels are a little bit wonky. And this is kind of a recurring problem. Now I have a few wheels that have rolled away, but in general with these Dragon Tigers, they don't like to sit perfectly. They do better with the tracks on, but I'm probably just going to start gluing the torsion bars in place because I just don't like that they don't. It takes too much work to get them to sit how I want. So the wheels, though. Let me talk about wheels. So these guys are simple, but then you have this piece. So if you can see how that looks, the way it goes on, you've got that little notchy piece there. So that goes there. Now later, they have you glue on this piece, which on this one is correct. That's that little connector. So on this one, it's good. And I actually did 4 of them this way and 4 of them the wrong way. So if I can find one that's the wrong way. Here we go. So if that one's that way, and this all this had to do with was trying to get the glue to sit on. I was trying to glue that piece on, and I was like, oh, well, maybe it'd be easier if I glued it to the outer piece, which, by the way, it was. So now I have 2 different ways. Like one side, I will have to glue a wheel without that piece, you know, here, right? Easy enough. And then the other side, I have 4 of these wheels without that. I find this. So then they go that way. By the way, there's a camera between me and my hands, so it's a little weird. I'm only seeing them on the camera. So alright, so there you go. So that's how that'll go. The only issue is these guys, which go here, kind of can get in the way. So because that little piece should fit about there. So I've dressed it a couple of times, and I found that it's much easier to have that guy this way, and then to glue this guy in than it is the other way. So that's my only issue with the wheels. I hadn't done wheels like this before, so keep an eye out for it. My advice is to go this way, because that's actually more correct anyway, with how they would have been. I think there was probably a piece on both wheels, but whatever. Then rear plate stuff happens. That was all pretty uneventful, to be honest. Everything goes together pretty well. I always leave off my shrouds because I want to weather everything first. So then it's a little bit annoying because it just delays the kit being together. But then I glue these on after they're painted so that I can make sure these at least look decent. I might stop doing that. Not sure yet. But alright, so then I did not paint on this tank anything inside the engine grills because, well, look. And I could show you a painted one. I just can't see that stuff. So I did on my first couple, and I just kind of stopped. So I'm not doing it anymore, and that's fine, I guess. At least not now. So let me get all these wheels off. It's annoying me the way it's sitting. I'll leave them. There's an issue with the when you have all the torsion bars workable, the bump stops will hold it up in the back on these wheels, the first 4. but when there's not a wheel here, it'll kind of low ride, like in the front, it'll sit down like this. So I tend to dress the wheels a lot. And I don't know, I'd like to just glue those. Right, so on the bow plate, I was checking the instructions. I want to make sure I cover everything. All this was fine. I really like this assembly here. That shovel with the separate brackets, it actually comes together really nicely. One thing I did notice though, there was no PE Zimmerit included for this little thing here, so I might have to putty that and do it by hand. A little disappointing because it looks pretty good on the 63831 one. And then later you do this, so here is my job at CAing that conduit, but man, is that just the most precarious place in the world to glue something. So in the end, what I end up doing is like, I'll push down with a finger and try to just force it to sit right, and then I'll come in real awkwardly, like, and then try to like dab some CA that'll hopefully fall between them, and then just hold it. So there ends up being actually like a bridge of CA between that. Man, do I need a better camera? Wow. Between the piece that sticks out for the conduit and the conduit itself. I think mine might be a smidge too high. You can see it right there, but I'm going to live with it because it's a pain. Upper deck. So nothing real to report. I like the way the cables go together. The tools are fine. This doesn't fit here, so I had to remove the locators from the hull. Actually, you can kind of see I did kind of not the best job in the world there. So I had to like cut the little tab that stick up here, and then just kind of move this a bit that way, because with this cable here, this doesn't fit. So that was like my only real issue. The PE was fine. I'm not sure if these ones were bent. This is obviously a different copy or whatever of that kit. I'm not that fast. So, and then here is your super lots of pieces barrel travel lock. Looks fine. I don't know. Not much to say. It was a lot of work, and I think if you'd used like a single piece molded Tamiya one, it would look just as good. The jack, I can see right there, looks okay. What else we got? So, onto the turret. I'm just going through the instructions in order here. So, the gun looks fine, as it always does. It's strange to me how it looks dirty, but I already painted the interior, and that's why it has kind of like a grungy look. This primer overspray. There is what I paint for the interior, so it's like my version of Cream Vice, which is buff and white. Some really dark model color Panzer Gray for some of these parts, just to give contrast. Some generic brown here. And that's all I do. You can tell I set it down a lot because I've got wear on here already, but I don't care because I actually buttoned this one up completely, if you see. And I've never done that before, but I also never built a Tiger purely for the purposes of a review before, which is kind of what this was. Like, I had a couple, and I just thought I'd build one and make it generic mid, and then I'd do another one as Carius's 217. So, so here's where those little pieces will be glued on. If we can look at the Zimmerit, because there's not much else as far as the build was concerned. I mean, that's about all there is. You can see how the Zim kind of reads okay on the turret, but it is pretty shallow on the hull. And this doesn't quite fit in. Now, I haven't sanded this, and I know some guys have, but like normally if I'm fitting the turret, I'll just kind of refit in, like. But I might have to do some sanding because that's a tight freaking fit. And it sits all right. Like when it's on the shelf, it doesn't stand out horribly, but I think I'll fix it. Also, I always saw these into 4 pieces. Always, 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 always will. Because even if they're just slightly offset like that, they look more real. Now, I use this big, scary, I wish I had better tools for it, but so I've got this miter box thing, and then I use this thing that looks like it can cut down trees. So it's a pretty precarious operation. I just line up. There are little, you can see the bits in here. that separate where the two things are. So I just line that up on one of these, and then a couple of, you know, but I've messed it up before, and I actually can't remember how I rectified that. So I've oversawed one, dipped into another Tiger kit, and I do have a bunch, so at some point I'm going to look in and find that I am missing a piece of fender. So, right. So I've got a bunch of wheels left. I've got a little bit of spare track link work to do, and I might not use the kit ones. That's why I haven't done this bit yet, is I might use the AFB Club stuff. So that's the majority of it. Here, I'll show you the tracks real quick. They're not finished. They're just in cups. So I'll just run and paint them when I, or build them when I paint them. So let's do, you know, final recommendations or opinions on the kit with it here built instead of with looking at a box. Like, I expected bad fit because I had seen build reviews done back in 2014 when it came out from some guys I respected, and I was like, that might be a little crap. Snagged up a few anyway, built it. It's not a pig, not by any means. And the DS, surprisingly, and I still have it from the inbox over here, this is, I hate DS. I hate it. Swear words and stuff, I hate it. But the ones in the box, if you like DS, are not damaged. So that'd be cool. I love the wheels, actually. One of the high points for me was having these things on because I knew it would be an option to have stuff off, and any previous ones I'd had didn't have it, so I liked that. Yeah, I actually really liked this thing. Apart from the turret fit, which is a little bit weird, because it's so tight right now I can pick it up, right? So, but you can see how it's not really sitting flush. I can't think of anything else that's like horrible about it. You can do a lot with it. There still isn't any other mids, really. I mean, the only other options for a mid is the Academy ones, which are terrible, in my opinion. And I really quite like this. Now, as far as, man, the prices have been getting really out of hand lately, so like, what should you pay for it? It's a standard one, but now standard is 80, but I'd say hunt for it for maybe 50. Now, I got the other one, so this one I got off, like, Scale Hobbyist. The other one I got from eBay with Fuel Tracks for 40. So, like, if you're clever, you can just, because there were a lot of them produced, you can kind of hover around and find them for cheap. So, yeah, this is probably, it's close to as good of a build as 6383 was, and 6383 is what I commonly say was like my favorite build that I've ever done, that late Tiger with Zimmerit, because it was just such a nice finish. You will still have to put an antenna on here, but upgrades apart from the, unless you want to super detail and be crazy, I like all these styrene parts. Now you can still put some extra little styrene bits they suggest on these things, but I think it's good the way it is. And yeah, I like it. The Zimmerit is shallow, and we'll see when I build it, or paint it, and then get a wash and some dry brushing on there, how much we can pop it out. It is a little shallow, but apart from that, I think this thing is pretty sweet.